Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining this evening. Great to see so many people online as well. Um, uh, what a brilliant few months we've had with the Rugby World Cup. So much activity happening in clubs, real inspirational couple of months, and it's been a real privilege to be able to see the impact that women's rugby is having. What we would love to be able to do, because we know so much from these webinars that the benefit that clubs get is actually kind of seeing what everyone else is doing as well. So it's a really nice opportunity. And what we'd love to be able to share is a few examples, if you're happy to put in the chat, an example of how the Rugby World Cup has had an impact on your club. That could be something quite small, maybe you personally, an individual story, or something, a change or a difference that's happened across your club or specifically within the women's team. So if you're happy to share just a little insight into that would be a really nice way to start tonight, and a really nice way just of to celebrate some of the impacts and some of the real amazing experiences that we know have come with hosting the tournament and the success of the Red Roses. So whilst you do that, we'd like to introduce ourselves. We've got myself. My name's Yvette Haywood. I'm the Women and Girls Growth Officer. I've been at the RFU for nearly 3 years now, and my role is part of the Rugby World Cup Impact Programme, which has all been about building towards hosting the tournament, and all the opportunities and the impact and legacy that we can achieve within our sport through that wonderful tournament. So now is really the exciting time. It's the time where we can really start to see some of that change and the opportunities that are coming from that. So really excited to be able to introduce 3 clubs as well tonight to you, who can kind of describe some of the successes that they've had leading up to and during the tournament as well. I'll hand you over, to my 2 colleagues to introduce themselves as well, who'll be on the webinar tonight.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Claire Cooper. I'm the growth manager for the Women and Girls game. Work in the same team as Yvette. I've been around for a bit longer than 3 years. I think it's 18 plus. Not quite as many as Brum, but it's been amazing to see the growth of the game during that time. But the last probably 6 months in particular, and the last 8 weeks have just been phenomenal. So yeah, very excited to have been part of that and to see all of the clubs that are on this call and the clubs across the country. The impact the World Cup has had has been huge, and we're excited to hear from you this evening. So thank you for joining.
Hi, I'm Claire Antcliffe, just pipping Claire Cooper to the amount of years in the RFU and RFUW, just on my 20th year this year. Have been working in the women and girls game for the majority of that time, had a brief stint in match official development, but I'm back in the women and girls scene looking at playing opportunities. Just like to echo what Yvette and Claire have said around the hugely exciting time. We've been waiting quite a while for this surge to happen, so we want to do everything that we can to be able to ensure that clubs can maximise this time to be able to grow their women and girls. So really excited to be a part of anything that's going on.
Brilliant, thank you. So we've got just this little bit of an overview of the agenda, what we'll be covering today. We have got quite a lot to cover, so we will keep it within the kind of 1 hour mark. What we will try and do though is answer questions as we go. So definitely use that chat function to put any questions in, and share examples. We definitely don't have all the answers. There's lots and lots of brilliant examples that are within everyone online tonight. So please share any kind of ideas and examples, and we'll have a few prompts that will encourage you to do that. So we will also try and answer questions if you do have specific questions, but if we can't answer them in the chat at the end, we will stay online for an extra or however long's needed to try and answer those questions as well, on verbally. If we can't get through to them verbally as well, then we will follow up. We can follow up with emails and links and sharing any information after tonight as well. So we're going to talk a little bit around that kind of initial building the buzz, and look at some really nice examples about how clubs have been doing that and the success that we've had introducing people, and talk about inner warrior camps. We're going to talk about once we've got some new people to your clubs, some great examples about how we welcome women and we give them that sense of belonging within a club, and make them feel part of the rugby family. And then finally, we'll look at the end about how we then keep that momentum going, how we keep women engaged, and share some examples of the Inner Warrior series in particular, and how that can support you and be an opportunity for women in your teams. So with that, I will make a start. And I just wanted to share this little graph with you. And I think people are we're aware of the visibility that women's rugby's had around the Rugby World Cup, but I think this really, brings it home and makes it quite a powerful statement in terms of what the opportunity that we do have at the moment. And you can see that is just how many times we've had Play Women's Rugby put into a search engine, and that spike over the Rugby World Cup, but in particular, with the success of the Red Roses in the final, has given us an incredible platform for changing some perceptions, changing some attitudes, and just the awareness of women's rugby. So super exciting, and a real opportunity. So what would be lovely is if you're happy to have a little think back, maybe kind of reflect back on any social media posts that either your maybe club has done, or your team in particular, or something else, something else that you saw completely that you felt inspired by, or that you thought was just a really clever, nice post. And I've just put up a couple of examples here that have been shared with me, which I thought personally was just a really good way of engaging women into club rugby. So the first one is video from Lincoln Ladies. This was a post that they did over the summer, introducing their Inner Warrior series team. The music was there. Can't get the music to work, but there is a little bit of vocal input from the ladies as well, which I think is a really lovely, welcoming video and social media post to make people understand.
If you've never played before, or if you're not very confident and have only played a little bit,
or you're a retired player who just misses playing,
or you just want to try a new sport,
Lincoln Ladies Inner Warriors for you.
And we need you.
So that was just a really nice example. I think it's very engaging, really friendly, just a really nice way of breaking down some of those barriers, so people maybe feel a bit less intimidated of what that environment is going to be when they go into it, which is absolutely massive to be able to reach out and engage new people. And then the other example there is just some shots, and we'll share the link to it as well. So I think it's always nice to have a little nosy around other people's social media. The creative side is always, some people have it in bucket loads, some people not so much. So being able to steal a few nice ideas is always helpful. So, if you want to contribute that and you want to put any examples that you've got in the chat, that would be brilliant. We're not going to kind of go through them all tonight, but we will definitely be able to take all of the information that goes in the chat and share that with you after tonight. So yeah, great to see any examples. That'd be fantastic, and we'll share those two examples with you as well as a little bit of food for thought. So just wanted to talk to you just for a few minutes about Inner Warrior camps as well. You may or may not have hosted an Inner Warrior camp yourself. They're essentially a campaign that the RFU has been supporting for nearly 10 years now, and it is a campaign about recruitment into women's rugby. So it's about putting on a friendly, welcoming session for new women to come and try out. We've supported hundreds and hundreds of camps with clubs running them over a number of years, and over 30,000 women and girls have attended Inner Warrior camps. If you want to engage with it and you feel like this would be supportive of some of the intentions to drive your recruitment, then we have templates. We have the social media templates, which we've got imagery, we've got some resources and guidance around how to promote your Inner Warrior camps. There's just kind of tips and tricks that would be helpful for you, and then some templates. So it's been designed to give kind of ready-made campaign that you can use and adapt. It's all editable content that will just hopefully help make your lives a little bit easier, and also just gives you a bit of guidance around really maximising how you do that on social media. The other opportunity, which is a new platform or a new addition to the finerugby.com platform, is kind of free advertising for any recruitment events that you're running in your club. Again, there's a couple of QR codes that you can see on the screen, but we will also share these links with you as well. And finerugby.com, if you're not aware of it, is just part of our website, and essentially anybody can go onto it, put in their postcode, and it will direct them either to their nearest club, or also we now have the functionality for you to advertise events. And we really use this, and we had an awful lot of clicks and engagement during the Rugby World Cup, where a lot of our paid media, any kind of campaigns that we were running, directed people to finerugby.com, and you can see it on the graphic that's on the screen. So we try to really focus a lot of our content to direct people, if they're interested in rugby, go to finerugby.com. So this is just a really nice, it takes a couple of minutes to fill in the form, easy, free advertising for your club to be able to promote any recruitment events that you're delivering. What we're interested to know is when is a good time for us to drive any traffic to finerugby.com. We have kind of set times in the year. Obviously, the Rugby World Cup was an incredible opportunity, and we absolutely maximised that opportunity. And now we're looking ahead at the future. So the Six Nations is always a good time where we get a lot more visibility of women's rugby as well. And January we find to be a good opportunity with New Year's resolutions, that kind of opportunity. So I'm just going to ask Alex to launch a poll, because we really just want a bit of input from yourselves to know if you are putting on recruitment events, and if you are thinking about when you would go out to try and recruit new players into your team over the next 6 months. What if there was a couple of months that you would highlight or kind of focus on? If you could just indicate to us when they would be, that would be helpful for us to understand that, so we can kind of work with you to really help to promote any events that go into finerugby.com.
Thanks, Yvette. They're straight into the poll, they are. So I can see the results coming in now. So if you were to prioritise time to recruit, when would it be? If you've got anything extra to add, please add your sort of thoughts to the chat there. If you can't see the poll for any reasons, please let us know what months and things in the chat as well. So I can see the majority. I'm just going to give the last few a chance to respond before I close it. But if you've got anything extra to add, please do add it to the chat. We'd love to see your thoughts and comments there. So that's the majority of it done there. So I'm going to end that poll, and I'm going to share those results with you now. So the majority of it are going for January with 38%, and then there's sort of a mix there between March and May, sort of 8% in there. But the big one to sort of focus on is that January, like you said, how people feel after Christmas and things, into the new year, new me, getting on with it. So I'll stop sharing that poll now.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, that's really fascinating and interesting as well to see obviously the summer and that opportunity for, I think a lot of people were like fitness sessions and, easier for new people to come along when the sun's shining, certainly. Right, brilliant. So thank you for that. What I'd like to be able to do now is hand over to Lydia from Falmouth Rugby Club. As I said, we've got 3 fantastic clubs that are all going to kind of give you a little bit of an insight into some of the successes that they've had. So Falmouth have done a fantastic job in growing their women's section. And Lydia is just going to give you a little bit of kind of insights, tips and tricks into what's worked well for them, and possibly, any kind of lessons learned that might be helpful for other clubs as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Bet. Hi, everyone. Yeah. So my name's Lydia. I sort of am the lead at Falmouth Rugby Club for our women's team. We have grown in the last 3 years, basically from probably about 4 women to we're getting somewhere between 20 and 25 to training now. We've seen a massive increase in the last couple of months, especially, but yeah, generally sort of been growing quite steadily from those really early days. I think the main things that we have found that have been helpful is sort of there's a few things, obviously, but when we first started, we really only had sort of 4 people, 5 people, and generally kind of were struggling to get those numbers, but found that the kind of consistency in the training really helped. So we sort of basically put it out there on our social media and everything that we would be training like every single night. And even if we only had 4 people, we still put that training on. And I think especially in those really, really early days, I found that we sort of, that consistency is what helped people keep coming, because if we kind of cancelled training with just a few players, we sort of really lost that momentum. So that was like a massive thing. The kind of second most important thing, I think, is our social media presence. We tried to just put as much sort of fun content on there as I possibly could. We were doing silly videos. We've just sort of put up really, really sort of quite a lot of quite silly stuff. But I think I found really with women, they tend to really want to know what they're walking into before they come along. And so if we kind of put everything out there, when they're kind of looking us up, they get a good idea of what they're then walking into. And lots of people who then sort of came to the club really highlighted that as a reason why they came, is because they sort of saw us on social media. They saw us having a bit of a laugh and like not being a sort of super serious kind of we're gonna like run everyone ragged kind of club, and that was what a lot of feedback we got as to why people felt like they could turn up, and actually then we ended up attracting quite a lot of players who had not really been in sport for a long time. The kinds of women who kind of dropped out of sport at age 13 because they felt like it wasn't for them. And actually we've attracted a lot of those kind of players to our club, which has resulted in us having quite a solid sort of front row basically now, because those are the women who feel like, especially at a young age, like they get pushed out of sport and they really feel like sport isn't for them. So we tried to kind of advertise that as much as we could, and have done a really good job at attracting those kind of people, and just making it really look like it is for everyone and anyone. So so that was a massive focus, especially for me, was just to really push that inclusivity for everybody and anybody. And then that kind of bleeds into our ethos a little bit as well. Sort of everything that I did at the beginning was just trying to push that inclusivity and not take ourselves too seriously. And actually, I find that when people come along and they're having fun, actually then they're engaging with the sport in a much better way. And it really helps to increase those skills because they're not really thinking about it too much. They're just having a good time. That was sort of another quite important thing. And then the final thing was our integration with the club as a whole, really, including our men's team. I had been involved with the club for a little while before I started the women's team, and really found that engagement from the men's team and from the kind of committee really helped make the club feel like quite a welcoming space. We sort of had a lot of sort of socials or just drinks after training where we would try and bring people in, and actually members of our men's team would make a sort of active choice to kind of come up and chat to us or chat to our new players without it necessarily being like a bit weird, or like sometimes you walk into a rugby club and like the men's team are over there and the women's team are over there and you're all kind of like, it feels quite strange. Whereas I think with us, I made a real effort to make sure that we were kind of integrating so that it felt like everyone was chatting to each other and it was one big club. And like we've got the sort of those men's players coming over and actually making friendships with our women's players. And same with the kind of committee members who tend to be those sort of older men. I mean, we've got more women on the committee now, but especially a few years ago. And then sort of coming up and chatting to the women and sort of engaging with them as sports people just felt really important. And it was important to me for us to kind of be treated that way and treated in the same way. So, and sort of trying to showcase that as well to people so that it doesn't feel like an us and them kind of club, which unfortunately I feel like some clubs can really fall into. So those sort of three aspects, that kind of social media, that engagement with the club, and also just having like a really strong ethos of like what we're trying to do, which was we were just trying to get women into rugby in whatever way we could. We weren't looking to be like the best team out there. We were just looking to kind of attract those players into the club. And especially, like I say, that kind of focus on trying to attract people who felt like sport wasn't for them really, really helped us to engage new players into the sport, because then you're not fighting against trying to pull people who are already active. You're not trying to pull them away from other sports and into your sport. You're kind of actually then attracting new, like completely new sports people. And I think that really helped with our drive and our increase in numbers, because then it was something that people were coming to without having kind of other ties on their time, really. And so, yeah, I think that really helped us with our drive. So I'm really conscious, I think I've been rambling on for ages.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Lydia. There is a question in the chat. Some lovely little emojis coming up here as well about social media, and if people have their own women's pages or women and girls pages separate to the men's pages. And you've obviously talked about, it sounds like you possibly have your own page, but then some examples here where you collaborate, and you said the importance of collaborating and feeling like you're part of the team. Is that how you manage your social media as well? So you work with the club social media or the men's pages and support each other?
Yeah, so with us, so the way our men's team, our sort of men's or our sort of general club social media works is it's very much like they put up team sheets and they put up games, and like that's kind of it. It's very like just information. Whereas I found it was really helpful to have our own women's page for those kind of like TikTok type the videos, and like we can put a lot of personality into our own social media, and then we collaborate with the sort of men's or the club social media for sort of game day things. So it is a sort of we get a lot of our games and our team sheets are all shared on the men's on the sort of men's or the sort of general club social media. But I've tried to retain our own separate social media, just because we can then, like I say, yeah, we can put a lot of our personality onto that as a sort of team personality, and that means that when people are looking for us, they get a much better sense, rather than it being a slightly informal general club view, basically. So I do find it is helpful to have a separate women's one, as long as you're still getting that representation on your kind of main club pages. So yeah, that sort of model has worked really well for us.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lydia.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think yeah, really insightful. Obviously the importance of having that camaraderie with the men's team and the rest of the club. Often when that is there, it can be so impactful as well. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing that. What we're going to do now is hand over to Claire Cooper, who's going to talk a little bit more around creating that welcoming environment. And Manj, I know, is also going to talk from Hove about some really good examples and just some of those lovely ways to actually, once you get women through the door, how can we make them feel that sense of belonging with your club?
Thank you, Yvette. Yeah, and I'll probably just touch a little bit on that audience piece. There's a question in the chat about how do you reach the algorithm of people who don't search for sports and rugby. So it's not quite the algorithm, it's the actual rather than the digital. So hopefully we'll bring to life some examples of how we've been trying to reach those women who have never thought of rugby as an option for them, and what we've been doing in that space. But first up, yeah, we just wanted to draw out some key reminders, really, of what we've all learned and heard over the years, of some fairly simple things that can make a really big difference. So I'll just go through these fairly quickly. But if you think about the first time you went to the rugby club and you had your first training session, what do you expect? What do you want to see, to feel? Clean and safe facilities, very simple, but very, very important. So have the toilets been cleaned? Is the mud been swept from the corridors? Are there locks on the toilets? Are there sanitary provision available? We've done a lot of work through the Impact 25 programme, as many of you may be aware, in terms of supporting the improvements around toilets and sanitary provision. I think there's over 600, it might have been 800 clubs in the end that took up the funding around that. So we know that a lot more of our clubs around the country are in a much better condition than they were, let's say, 2 or 3 years ago, for sure. So another one is just making sure that there's really clear signage and good lighting. So there's nothing worse than not knowing where you're going. You might be trying to find the person that you've been in touch with, but might not know where to go. So again, just really thinking about where are the change rooms, where's the clubhouse, and where is the women's training. Make that really obvious, and ideally have some people or a person available to point the right direction when people arrive in the car park and at the club entrance as well. Another one, just again through the impact work that we did, the social spaces are obviously really important, and we wanted to make sure that we could help clubs to bring themselves up to date, if you like, and make sure that the women's game and the girls' game was reflected in the clubhouses. So have you got pictures up on the wall? Is it evident that the women and girls team play, that they're, as we said, part of the family, part of the club? It's really important that obviously women and girls feel valued and really part of the community. We've been talking about social media, so it's obviously really important to keep celebrating successes, and that success could be 5 more people turned up to training, or it could be the first fixture or first run out for a couple of players. Whatever it is, grab that opportunity to shout about your club and the teams, and make sure there's lots of engagement. So get all of your players, reposting, sharing, and etc. And then the last one there really is, and again, through the impact work, we've had a lot more women come into coaching roles through the vouchers that we've provided. So if there is an opportunity for female coaches to be running the sessions, then that does help as well. Going on to the community and starting to talk a bit about the audience that we're trying to reach. Again, through the impact funding that we've had, we ran the Strive 25 project with our 8 host cities, and we worked with different delivery partners in each of the cities to deliver that T1 rugby into those different communities and audiences. So we wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity for women in the cities who've never considered rugby as a sport for them to be able to have a go. And we've obviously started with the host cities, and we'd love to see this this project, this approach extended in different places as well, and really take the learnings that we've had from the last 18 months into that. So we took rugby into local communities through some existing groups and organisations, and Manj will talk about this a bit further in what happened in Brighton Hove shortly. The local authority was really key in all of the projects. They kind of opened the door, if you like, to lots of different groups and opportunities. So they're obviously driven by increasing physical activity levels in their area. They'll have different targets to meet. And going back to the algorithm question, if you like, that's a way to kind of sell in rugby to people, again, that might not have thought that rugby's a physical activity opportunity for women. But it's outdoors, it's group activity, real community spirit, and that's what a lot of organisations are chasing at the moment. So there's a great opportunity for collaboration there. So really think about the different women that you'll be reaching, and where can that activity take place. So it doesn't always have to be at the rugby club, and again, Manj will touch on this shortly. So could it be in a public park? Could it be in a village hall? Could it be at the leisure centre? We've seen all of these places run T1 rugby introductory sessions. And then once the women have started to feel more confident in their group, then there can be opportunities for more activities to then happen in the clubs further down the line. The other organisation locally that is helpful is the active partnership. So you can search your local active partnership, and they will definitely be interested in helping to promote your activities. And again, they might already have projects or programmes and funding potentially that would complement or enhance what you're trying to do. So I'm going to hand over to Manj, who's going to talk a bit about the project at Hove Rugby Club, which kind of started off through the Strive 25 project with Brighton and Hove Council through the Rugby World Cup. Over to Manj.
Thanks, Claire. Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me. So I, just by way of background, I've been involved in rugby for about 30 odd years, playing, coaching and refereeing and all sorts. And I set up a girls section in 2016 as I was retiring from playing. And we went from about half a dozen girls eventually to about 80, and we were running we run 4 teams now across 4 age groups. I'm not actually involved in that in terms of management at the moment. I stepped away. I sort of set it up, was involved in the early days, and now sort of have passed it on to others, and it's still thriving. But in earlier this year, in about January, I was on the host city legacy committee, and Claire was on that, and others. And I had already had it in my mind to want to engage women of multicultural backgrounds into walking rugby. And then it just got me thinking about walking rugby generally. And so what happened was I basically set up mixed walking rugby on a Wednesday at my club. and that was for men and women. And that now is successful, it's established. I've found another coach. So after about 6 months or so, I found another coach who leads that, and I've got a manager that runs that, and that's a mix of men and women, some that have played before, some that haven't. So some of them it's a completely new entry point, and I've got players that are about 70. Some of them, they range in age actually. It's not just older people, it is people that may have been injured, for example, that can't run anymore, but still love the game. So that's all established. And then separately, I ran this women only walking rugby, and I basically approached a local community group called the Hangleton and Knoll Multicultural Women's Group. And I had some contact with them previously anyway, and I knew of them, I knew of the lead. And I just asked them if they wanted a taster in walking rugby. Obviously, I made it clear that it was non-contact to start off with. And they were really welcoming. And so I went along to one of their sessions, firstly, just to explain about what the active session would be. And I answered all the queries that they had. Some of them had concerns about it being contact. Some of them were saying they wanted to play contact. I don't actually think they were serious at the time, but it was all good, and I was able to answer all the questions they had. And I told them there was no special kit required; they just could turn up however they wanted to turn up. And so my first session to them was in their hall. They have a community hall, and I delivered a session to them. I think I had about 15 or so women, and I mean it was mayhem, but it was such good fun. It was really, really good fun. And they were there, in their hijabs, in their salwar kameez, in whatever they were wearing, and they just got involved in this session. They got stuck in, got their heart rate going by the end of it, which I think they were all surprised at. And there were a couple of ladies who I think were of Muslim origin who I was suggesting perhaps they take their coats off, and they were quite clear that they didn't want to take them off, and that was absolutely fine. I just needed to make sure they were hydrated and didn't overheat. But for them, they wanted to keep them on, and there was not an issue with that at all. So that was kind of how it started in about January. And then in April, that was when the council sort of said that they would fund some sessions if I wanted to through the Strive funding. So basically I offered 6 taster sessions to this group. And we started, it was supposed to be at my rugby club, but within about a week of setting it up, the club basically declared the pitches unplayable. So I ended up taking it to the local park, and that actually worked quite well because a couple of them, had children, and one of them, single parent, would bring her child, and it was right next to a play park. So the child, old enough to play on his own, unsupervised, went to the play area, the swings. She could keep an eye on him, but still get involved in the session. And then there were lots of passers-by as well, were taking an interest. And that, I think they quite liked that. I think they felt a sense of pride in it. We're playing rugby and people were asking questions. So that's how it started. And then I delivered the 6 sessions. And then the aim was, and again, it was minimum kit. I said they could wear whatever they wanted. It was dry, so there was no requirement for boots or anything. Um, uh, and then the timing, it was a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. I did try and have it at 9, but they weren't that keen on that. So I thought, well, for 6 sessions, all right, I'll move it to 10. 10 o'clock doesn't quite suit my family arrangements, but anyway, got it going, 6 sessions. And I was hoping it'd be self-sufficient like the mixed one. But after about 6 sessions, although I had the engagement, and in fact, I've got about 30 women in my WhatsApp group, and about half of those actively are involved. I don't get 15 for every session, I hasten to add. I can get anything from about 6 to about 10 of a session. But they're engaged, and there was an appetite for it, and eventually, so we were doing that in the summer. And then now eventually I've bought it to the club. So we do train at the club now. And there's still a bit of an issue. So I was hoping they would be self-sufficient, but they didn't quite have the confidence at the time, and they were quite keen on me carrying on. with the proviso that I would be happy to, but obviously it'd have to fit around my family requirements. So I was away for most of September at the Rugby World Cup, and so there weren't any sessions available because they really, I did ask them whether they would be open to the idea of a substitute coach, but the only coaches I had available were male, and that was not an option. I spoke to the lead, didn't even put it to the women, and she said that isn't an option. So it's got to be a female, and so that's where I struggled, is finding another female coach that would take the sessions. But my group were pretty happy. They were quite flexible, and they understood that I've got my family life as well. So yeah, so every week I do a poll. I let them know whether the session's going to be on the Saturday, and then if I have a minimum of 6, it it goes ahead. So that's kind of how it all sort of set up, and it's still running. They're still not quite match fit, I would say, or match confident. We haven't had a game yet, so that's my next plan, is to get a fixture, and I have been speaking to the lead at Burgess Hill to see if I can get a women against a women's match, and she's confident that she can get me an oppo. But there have been some challenges along the way. So it's this self-confidence, the confidence in them taking ownership of it, because there's not always going to be the funding, and I was hoping by now that we would find someone. So I've got to try and bottom out why I can't find someone to be able to take the lead, because if someone doesn't, the alternative is it doesn't happen. But I've got a couple of teachers, I suppose, and they're sort of like, we do it as our day job. They don't want to have to do it at a weekend, but then a lot of these women will never even they won't even been involved in sport, let alone touched a rugby ball. So they may not have that confidence, and there could be other things there behind all of that, in terms of cultural barriers and confidence there. So that's the kind of a challenge for me, is to see how I can try and think about who could be potential leads. Can I put them on a course? Can I find a course for them? I'm sure we could find some funded courses for them. Will they have the time to do it? Yeah, and then just like childcare, just trying to make it so that childcare isn't a barrier for them. I mean, I don't offer a creche or anything, but having the club open so the kid can go in there if it is raining and stuff, and the mum can be not so concerned about that. But then the only other challenge is keeping track of people. I have had people come and go, and it's sort of keeping track of those that have left and why they've left. And because it's just me really running it, and I've got a day job, and I've got my 3 kids, and I've got this, that, and the other. I've got, lots of things going on. It'd be helpful to have another volunteer that could help me with that element of it, and track why they haven't come back, or move them on. And I do tell them, those that I think that can play touch rugby, running rugby, I suggest that to them. Those that might have an interest in contact, obviously I can put them, direct them to that. And in terms of, so and then the next step really for me is, although we are at the club, it's a Saturday morning, so it's not like peak club time. So it's about how I will integrate them into the club. So, it is really important that it is seen to be welcoming. They've not actually been inside yet, but when they do, I want them to see some visibility. I do want them to see, it's a multicultural group. I want to see some multicultural faces on my club wall. If I host an event, I've got to think about having a non-drinking option as well, alcohol. I've got to think about, if I'm going to be offering meat, is there other vegetarian options, halal options, stuff like that. But we're not quite there yet. They're happy at the moment as to where they are. I have had, when there has been a club function, I have had a couple of them that have come to that. One lady in her 70s, she used to be a PE teacher back in the day, Hindu origin, Indian origin, and she brought her whole family down to a club day. So that was lovely to see. So I think the challenge is really for the clubs just to make it really welcoming, and just kind of, they will be apprehensive, I'm sure. Rugby won't have been a sport that they would have thought was welcoming to them, really. So yeah, but it is important. It's important to them to have that visibility as well. That's the only other thing I was going to say, is I think it gives them some comfort having a coach that looks like them as well.
Brilliant. That's there's a little photo there. So thank you very much, Manj. I think some really interesting insights into reaching completely a new group of women to introduce them to rugby in a very different context to, you know, a rugby club, and that the importance of confidence is just so powerful and can make, you know, a huge difference. So putting people in an environment where they feel comfortable first and foremost, so they can grow their confidence. It's really, really important. I'm conscious of time, so we'll move on. Thank you very much, Manj. Claire, should we just touch on the WI example, and then I'll pass over to
yeah, we've got time for the video, so
I don't know.
2 minutes.
Let's play the video.
I think if WIs are looking for an event where they want to make sure that the sound is great, the facilities are great, then their rugby clubs are definitely worth talking to. We've got 8 WIs from 2 federations who have all come together to watch the National Federation's annual general meeting, and they're also using all of the facilities at this wonderful rugby club here at Banbury. Today has been fabulous to actually see in action all of the work to really benefit WI members. Hearing WI members saying, oh, I'm feeling really much more confident about going to another group event as a result. And I think the rugby club plays an important part of that, because it's such a space of community already. It sort of welcomes people in and encourages people to sort of talk together and mix together. The online facilities that we've got here at Banbury Rugby Club are fabulous for WIs to use. One of the first things I got told today was, oh, how great, the sound system's brilliant. We can hear what they're saying. When the WIs want to get together and perhaps see the AGM together, share a film night together, or even get engaged in the Learning Hub activities, what we want to make sure is that they have a positive experience. So I think the Rugby Club has discovered that actually there are women here who are interested in the rugby as the game. Similarly, I think that the WI members have discovered that the rugby club's not all about just playing rugby and having a few beers afterwards. They're discovering that the club are really engaged and interested in their community.
It's given me confidence. Normally I'm a very shy person and I back away, but today it's given me the confidence to talk to other people, get to know them and make new friends.
The attitudes between the rugby club and the WI is changed immensely. I think the next step in the partnership is to grow, to have more events here. We're looking forward to growing the relationship and making sure that we're very welcoming.
We've been asking members today what they would like here, whether they want meetings, workshops, or whether they want to use the facilities to do some exercise. We've encouraged people to go out and use the pitch today. I think I can sum it up in one word: it's community. So it makes you realise that you're part of a much bigger community than just your one institute.
Thank you. So we do have a national partnership with the WI, and if you and your club are interested in partnering with a local group, then you can speak to your local club developer or growth activator to find out more. But it's been really lovely. That's only one of many examples that we've got, and you know, some of the groups are taking part in walking rugby and touch rugby as well. So there is a playing element for some of them too. But it's just a lovely way to connect the groups, and again, this importance of spreading the word of how great our game is, and changing the perception. So all of those women that have been engaged are able to be confident that their family members can go and enjoy rugby, and their granddaughters, their nieces, whoever, can go and play and really enjoy the game. So it's been great to be a part of.
I think if
hand over to Claire, the other Claire.
The caveat is you don't have to be called Claire to work in the RFU, but it helps. I think that's the general consensus with that. Thank you, Claire. Thanks, Manj, and everybody else who's shared their story. I am conscious of time, but I don't want to completely rush through. But Siobhan from Reading Abbey has got her story to tell as well. So we've gained a whole new group of women who are really interested in taking to the pitch for the first time. So what do we do with that? How do we continue that momentum? How do we provide them with an opportunity that's going to keep them coming back? And I think we need to really, first of all, make sure that we understand what it is that the women want. We do have clubs out there who want to do rugby for fitness, and that's absolutely fine. They want to do T1, and there is an absolute place for that. Walking rugby, as has already been said, is hugely, hugely popular. But for those that do want to dip their toe in that element of contact and have a competition against another team, we have the Inner Warrior series. So you've got the Inner Warrior camps, which is for recruitment, and then you've got the Inner Warrior series, and that is our playing opportunity. It's run by competition activators currently, and there are 4 of us across the country. I sit in the Midlands and got colleagues in the Southwest, the Southeast, and the North. And this is basically it is the bottom band underneath the pyramid of the women's leagues, which is what we say is why we're the strongest, because we hold everybody else up. So from an Inner Warrior series perspective, it is just trying to make sure that there is structure without rigidity, where people can go, they know what's happening, something is being organised and set up for the needs and wants of the players, but it's not every week, and it's not at 3 o'clock on a Sunday or 2 o'clock on a Sunday all the time. So as it says here, that our ethos is, it's about developing those players in a safe environment. How do you get them on a pitch in as safe a place as possible for fun, but a little bit of competition? We're looking to develop the team and those of the teams around you. I think what we also need to pay a little bit of attention to is it's great for us to go, yes, we want our team and we want to make sure that we're safe and we've got many numbers. We're worried about the team down the road. The problem is, if you don't have the team down the road, then you're travelling further for fixtures. So it's, how do you work together to provide something different for all of those women across the area, to make sure that if somebody fancies a game, they're not having to spend their entire Sunday travelling to it. So it's about games getting played. So it's flexible offers. We're looking, the ultimate aim for many of these clubs is with confidence going into the leagues, so being ready for National Challenge 3. All we ask really is that there's honesty and transparency around player numbers. We can work with a team having, in the Midlands especially, the ethos that we have and the setup that we have is that if you've got 4 or 5 players, there is a place for you. We can link you with another team, and it can change the format very, very easily. It's about at the other end, it's about those fringe players of your first team also getting quality time. So we're seeing more developing teams, more second teams starting up. There isn't enough for a fully fledged team to go straight into the leagues, but you might have 4 or 5 that are constantly just not ready. They're new in. You've attracted new women into a club that has a team in National Challenge 1 or Championship 2. How do you make sure that they get an opportunity to go out onto the pitch and fight their way into that first team? We are retaining players. So those that you're recruiting, this is a retention program. Playing opportunities is to retain those players that you've got. And it's also a great opportunity for experienced players to support those coming through, an opportunity to take on a leadership role, either on the pitch or off the pitch. So that's sort of the whole ethos. And it doesn't matter where it is from a regional perspective. We tend to cut our suits to fit the cloth kind of thing. So it will be, if there is a need for standalone fixtures in a kind of like a merit league situation in one area, that's what we'll do. In my area this year, we've got all clubs grouped together geographically in pods, and then they all come together across the season to play 1 or 2 matches at each event. So it is definitely for whatever the need is, and discussion around that happens pre-season. Our target audience I've probably already touched on actually. It's those who are new to rugby, those who are making the transition and trying to see whether they fancy moving from T1 rugby to contact. It's bringing the past players back for whatever reason, whether they've left the game for 10, 15 years, whether they have had a child or a couple of children and have decided that they want something for themselves, whether they're returning from an injury, maybe they lost the love for the game and they want another way in. It's for students. We have a lot of university teams that take part, as well as having an Inner Warrior series offer specifically for universities. We've talked about the fact that it's for brand new sections, but also it's for the developing teams underneath their first team. And we're really looking for that safe transition for under 18s to be able to move from that under 18s age group into the adults. So if you do have any questions about Inner Warrior series, then you just get in touch with your competition activator. So there's myself. You don't need to remember this because the information will be out there. We might see if we can have access to it. Matt Dent in the north. We've got Kirsten James in the southwest and Kesha Drain in the southeast. So we'll be able to give you information as to how you can join. There are entry points during the season in various ways. But that is a very, very quick whistle-stop tour of what we're trying to do with the Inner Warrior series. So I will now pass over to Siobhan to share her story.
Oh, hello. Hi, everyone. Okay, so hi, I'm Siobhan. I'm from Reading Abbey. I'll try and keep it brief, but basically wanted to give some background of us as a team, as a women's section, to begin with, to kind of explain like how we've evolved over a period of time, and I've also had to take a step back at times as well. So initially, the women's side was created by Annette. A lot of people in my area would know who Annette is. Like, she's a stalwart of the rugby community over in Berkshire. That was in 2013 and 14, and we only really had maybe 10 or 12 people starting at that point. And then obviously as time went on, we then created a full team and went into the league structure underneath the RFE there. I've then checked to see when was our first time that we had any experience with the Inner Warrior series, and it actually looks like it was 2017, which back then it was kind of like just sort of like a stand-up event kind of thing come over. It's a very similar format to the pitch up and play kind of things and that kind of events. And then following that, in 2018 and 19, we then created our second team, which entered the league, and obviously that's when we, as you just saw in the target audience and Claire's slides, is we entered into National Challenge 3. And then we had to make the decision in 2023, the 24 season, to come back out of that league system. I think we got all the way up to NC2, but we took a step back predominantly because we just weren't able to field a team of 10 or more, and obviously it's very different compared to being in the Inner Warrior. And so we took that step back, and ever since, like, we've literally flourished as a squad. We've now got between 30 to 40 active players who constantly come to training, who are putting their hands up for selection every weekend. It's enabled us to bring players who've never played before, those who've returned to rugby either through injuries, from postpartum. Obviously, we've got that connection with the under 18s now as well, so they come up. University, so we go to Reading Uni, and I know that some of their lot as well go to some of the other clubs around Reading. So literally everything in that last slide of that Claire was sharing is like pretty much how the development squad or our second team in the Inner Warrior series has kind of got together. Therefore, it's kind of allowed us to develop skills at a point where there is no pressure, there's no stress. You've got the option of playing for our first team who are in Champ 2, and then equally you've also, if you don't feel like you're that kind of level and you want to play more social rugby, then that's what we can offer with the Inner Warrior series. It's enabled players in between to sort of really gain confidence. And obviously it's the Inner Warrior series itself has enabled us as a squad and as a club to offer both levels. Without that, we wouldn't have been able to do it. We would be in a situation again where we probably wouldn't have a second team, we'd just have a first team, and the competition for game time would be quite high. And actually this gives us the opportunity for everyone to kind of make the use of their weekend rugby, should you say. And this weekend was a great opportunity for us, like the cup games we just had, and we had a mixed squad of both of our first team and our development team, and it was a real nice way to see like the step up from those who have played predominantly in a warrior level to actually kind of play against a team that's probably something higher than what they used to. And then finally, really, it's just kind of to say that, you know, we've been part of the Inner Warrior series now for the last couple of seasons. We've really enjoyed it. We've really loved meeting all the other clubs that get involved and seeing some of them grow as well. You know, we've played people like Abingdon and, well, there's so many, but seeing them sort of go from like small groups and then getting bigger, and not just that, like the next time we've played them, they're a lot more confident in the game. It's just been really great. And yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the future is for everyone in the Inner Warrior, really. Yeah,
Brilliant.
so,
yeah, that was a lovely example. Sorry for giving you only a few minutes to fit that all
that's
in.
okay.
But certainly, I think absolutely brought it to life, and the opportunities that it can give to such a range of players, you know, from a real range of backgrounds as well. So we will absolutely share contact details. So if you're not in the Inner Warrior series, but you think that could be an option for you or for your club, then we will give you contact details so you can get in touch with the relevant member of staff. And the same with some of the other initiatives that we've talked about tonight. We'll make sure all of that it goes out in an email to you following the webinar, with a recording of the webinar as well, so you can share that with other people within your club. You know, it's not necessarily easy for everyone to find an hour on a Monday night to join webinars. So if you have got any questions, feel free just to put them in the chat and stay on. We will stay on and try and answer them. Alex, is there any questions? I've just kind of been flicking through and I can see quite a lot of lovely comments and lots of really great engagement and examples. I don't know if you've picked out any questions that you think we can answer now. People.
Yeah, there was just some questions early on, particularly around the Inner Warrior series and what's being done to sort of make that visible and promotion from our side at the RFU.
Is that from the Inner Warrior series or the Inner Warrior?
The Inner Warrior,
camps?
the camps.
Oh.
So what are we doing sort of visibly to promote that?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great question. The poll was a little bit of what we were trying to understand. I think we have it available on the website. It's always accessible, so we're trying to make sure that people are aware of it to be able to use it when it suits them. In the past, we have run windows, which people are probably aware of, and we're just trying to understand when there could be when the best opportunities would be to possibly do some of that support and you know, really drive that visibility of the camps, and the use of findrugby.com is a really key part of that. So yeah, the poll was part of that, and we're just trying to get some of that input, and then we can come back to the game, and we can, you know, we've got people's contact details on here. We'll be able to give a bit more information about what that might look like kind of in next year going forwards as well.
Thanks. And there was another one, again, going back to those Inner Warrior camps, just, you know, as it's been done sort of in the past, are there any freebies or paid advertising promotions or things? Is there anything like that available now?
Right at the moment, we haven't got anything like that we're kind of launched, you know, that's available right now. I think it's the same with kind of what I was saying, is we're just trying to understand when's the best opportunities. The Rugby World Cup has obviously been a real, you know, key focus, and we were driving a lot of the content around the Rugby World Cup to findrugby.com. So now we're looking kind of past that, and the opportunities around how we promote that is something that we will share, and getting the poll tonight was part of that process.
Thanks. And just one has just come in, obviously big success after the World Cup, Rugby Fest and the Red Roses going out. You know, so they're asking sort of, can they request a presence from Red Roses to come out? I'm sure every club would like it. It's not that easy, I don't think.
Yeah, no, we do get a lot of requests, unsurprisingly, and I think they do a pretty phenomenal job of going out and doing their community visits, and we are incredibly grateful that they do that. At the moment, we kind of had the commitment of up to Rugby Fest, where we had all of the players go out to over 20 community clubs over that weekend. And there was huge impact and visibility as a result of that. The players are now with their clubs, so that is their time that they have with their clubs. We actually only get a couple of very small windows when Red Roses are in contract with England Rugby and they're not in training camps or they're not in tournaments. So that window is very, very small. At the moment, they're kind of planning what their calendar looks like at the moment. And then if there's opportunities for them to do those visits, we will know about that and we'll start to plan for that. But at the moment, there's no kind of commitment about what and when that will be. But yeah, again, it's all very much planning at the moment, and more information will be available when it is.
Thanks very much. Just going to do a final check. So someone's asking, are there any email lists we need to be on to make sure we get all the information about events, etc.?
I mean, all of our information goes out in CGU's community game update, and that goes to all kind of golden roles with it that's on a GMS. So most of that is how we try to put all of our communications within CGU. So if you're not one of those key golden roles, I would speak to somebody within your club that does receive CGU, and then make sure that information gets passed and shared out within your club. I don't know, Claire, if you've got any other suggestions. I think that's the most consistent and the way that we always share information.
Yeah, no, you're spot on with that. Definitely contact the people in your club who are in those key roles, and hopefully that information is disseminated, but definitely ask for it if you're not seeing the community game update every two weeks, every month. No, every 2 weeks.
Every month.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that looks like we've finished, Yvette. So do you want to?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. Real extra thanks as well to Siobhan, Lydia, and Manj. Really appreciate just bringing to life all the wonderful examples, and really interesting. I think a real diverse range as well, which is really lovely to hear. Different perspectives, and yeah. So thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining tonight as well. Appreciate you taking your time, and hopefully there's been a few examples in there that can give you a bit of food for thought, and a few ideas, and we will share any links and recordings afterwards.